Stop, before you reach for another energy drink, before you blame your genetics, before you convince yourself you're just not a morning person. Listen to this. What if I told you that a Roman emperor from 1,800 years ago cracked the code on why modern Americans are walking around like energy zombies? Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote something in his private journal that will blow your mind. We suffer more in imagination than reality. But here's the kicker. He wasn't just talking about mental suffering. He was talking about energy suffering. You see, that chronic exhaustion you feel, it's not because you're sleeping wrong, eating wrong, or working too hard. It's because you're being wrong. You're being someone you're not, and it's literally draining your life force. While you're out there performing, pretending, and people-pleasing your way through life, your soul is hemorrhaging energy faster than a Tesla with a dead battery. Americans spend $15 billion a year on energy supplements, sleep apps, and productivity hacks. But Marcus Aurelius figured out the real energy secret without spending a dime. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly why some people bounce out of bed like they're powered by lightning, while others need 3 alarms and a prayer just to function. The performance trap that's killing your energy. Here's what Marcus Aurelius knew that we've forgotten. Every minute you spend being fake is a minute stolen from your life force. Think about this for a second. You wake up, and before your feet hit the floor, you're already putting on a mask. The "I've got my life together" mask. The "I'm crushing it at work" mask. The "I'm the perfect parent, partner, friend" mask. By 9 a.m., you're not living your life, you're performing it. And here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to admit. Performance is the most exhausting thing you can do to your nervous system. Marcus Aurelius called this living for the applause of others. He wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." But he wasn't just talking about anger. He was talking about any emotion you suppress, any truth you hide, any part of yourself you abandon for approval. Let me paint you a picture. Remember being a kid. You didn't check your face before laughing. You didn't rehearse what you were going to say. You didn't worry if your joy was too much or your sadness was inappropriate. You just were. And you had energy for days. What happened? Society handed you a script. Successful people don't show weakness. Nice girls don't get angry. Real men don't cry. Smart people have it all figured out. So you learned to edit yourself. Cut out the anger, the sadness, the weird thoughts, the authentic desires. You became a highlight reel of what you thought people wanted to see. And every time you betrayed yourself for approval, every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you smiled through pain, you leaked energy. Here's what blew my mind when I really understood Marcus Aurelius. He had the power to execute anyone who disagreed with him, yet he chose to be brutally honest in his private writings. Why? Because he understood that authenticity isn't just nice to have, it's survival. The Roman emperor wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." Notice he didn't say it would hurt your reputation or make people uncomfortable. He said it would make you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you lose your energy source. Think about the last time you had to be on all day. Maybe it was a work conference, a family gathering, or a date where you were trying to impress someone. By the end, you felt like you'd run a marathon, right? But you were just sitting there, talking. That's because authenticity takes zero energy. Performance burns through your reserves faster than a Lamborghini burns through gas. Marcus Aurelius figured out that the human psyche has 2 modes, expression and suppression. Expression flows. Suppression requires constant energy input to maintain. It's like the difference between a river flowing downstream and trying to push that same river uphill. Here's where it gets really interesting for us. Americans, we live in a culture that rewards performance over presence. We celebrate the hustle, the grind, the fake it-you-make-it mentality. We're taught that success means becoming whoever the market wants us to be. But Marcus Aurelius, who literally ruled the known world, wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." What if your greatest enemy isn't your competition, your boss, or your circumstances? What if it's the version of yourself you think you need to be to succeed? The emperor discovered something that modern science is finally catching up to. When you're authentic, your nervous system relaxes. When you're performing, it stays in fight or flight mode, and you can't recover from fight or flight with a good night's sleep. You can only recover by coming home to yourself. This is why some people can work 12-hour days doing what they love and feel energized, while others drag themselves to jobs that pay twice as much. It's not about the work, it's about whether the work allows them to express or forces them to suppress. Marcus Aurelius wrote his most famous work, Meditations, as private notes to himself. He wasn't performing for history, he was processing truth. And those authentic reflections have given energy and wisdom to millions of people for nearly 2 millennia. What if the secret to unlimited energy isn't found in what you consume, but in what you stop pretending? Asterisk the shadow energy leak, and why Americans are especially vulnerable. Asterisk Marcus Aurelius wrote something that will make you uncomfortable. Confine yourself to the present. But here's what he really meant, and what most people miss completely. Stop running from the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide. Americans are masters at shadow suppression. We're raised on Disney movies where the villain gets destroyed, superhero films where good conquers evil, and a culture that demands we stay positive and good vibes only our way through life. But Marcus Aurelius, who dealt with plagues, wars, and betrayals, knew something different. Your shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It just goes underground and starts eating your energy. Here's what I mean by shadow. It's not your dark side like some Hollywood movie. It's everything you've been told is unacceptable about being human. Your anger when you're disrespected. Your sadness when things don't work out. Your desire to say no without explaining yourself. Your need to be seen and heard. Your ambition. Your selfishness. Your sexuality. Your weirdness. Every culture creates shadows, but American culture, we've turned it into an art form. Think about this. What's the first thing Americans ask when they meet someone new? What do you do? Not who are you, or what brings you alive. We literally introduce ourselves by our job titles because we've been trained to believe our value comes from our productivity. So what happens to the parts of you that aren't productive, the parts that just want to play, rest, create without purpose, or feel without fixing? They get shoved into the shadow. And suppressing your shadow is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater while swimming laps. Eventually, you're going to drown. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" But notice, he didn't say don't get angry. He said, understand that suppressing anger creates bigger problems than feeling it. The emperor dealt with anger, frustration, disappointment, and grief. But instead of pretending these emotions didn't exist, he wrote about them honestly. He processed them, he integrated them. And that integration is what gave him the energy to rule an empire while maintaining his sanity. Here's where Americans get trapped. We think spiritual growth means becoming better people, less angry, less selfish, less demanding. But Marcus Aurelius knew that spiritual growth means becoming more yourself, not less. Let me give you a practical example. Say you're in a meeting and someone takes credit for your idea. The spiritually mature thing to do, according to popular culture, is to let it slide. Don't be petty. Rise above it. Turn the other cheek. But what actually happens in your body? Your jaw clenches, your shoulders tense, your breathing gets shallow. You smile and nod, while internally, you're burning with rage. That rage doesn't disappear because you're being spiritual, it goes into your shadow. And your nervous system has to work overtime to keep it there. Marcus Aurelius would have handled this differently. He would have acknowledged the anger to himself, understood its message, I deserve recognition for my work, and then chosen his response from a place of integration, not suppression. Maybe he speaks up in the moment. Maybe he addresses it privately. Later, maybe he decides this person isn't worth his energy and makes a mental note. But whatever he chooses, he's not using his life force to pretend the anger doesn't exist. Here's the American tragedy. We've confused being spiritual with being nice. We've confused being successful with being likable. We've confused being strong with never showing weakness. And it's killing our energy. The Roman emperor wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." What if the subject is you? What if you've been living your life based on the opinions of people who don't even know who you really are? Every time you abandon yourself to make others comfortable, you create an energy leak that no amount of sleep can fix. Marcus Aurelius dealt with senators who flattered him, generals who feared him, and citizens who worshipped him. He could have easily lived in a bubble of false praise. Instead, he chose brutal self-honesty. Why? Because he understood that the energy you spend maintaining a false image is energy stolen from living your actual life. The shadow isn't your enemy, it's your unexpressed life force, waiting to be integrated and transformed into authentic power. Asterisk the food authenticity connection, why you crave junk when you're living a lie. Asterisk Marcus Aurelius made an observation that seems random until you understand its deeper meaning. Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest. He wasn't just talking about handling external storms. He was talking about internal coherence. And here's where it gets wild. When your inner world is chaotic from all the performing and pretending, your body starts craving chaos too. Let me blow your mind with this connection. The more fake you are, the more fake food you crave. Think about it. You spend all day being someone you're not, smiling when you're frustrated, agreeing when you disagree, working on projects that don't align with your values. By evening, you're so disconnected from your authentic self that you can't even tell what you actually want to eat. So what do you reach for? The most processed, artificial, chemically enhanced foods available. Why? Because your psyche wants consistency. If you're consuming unreality all day, fake personalities, fake enthusiasm, fake relationships, your body will crave unreal food. Marcus Aurelius understood this principle without knowing anything about modern nutrition science. He wrote, "A person's life is what their thoughts make it." But it goes deeper than positive thinking. Your thoughts literally shape your desires, including what you put in your mouth. Here's what happens in real time. You have an authentic impulse. Maybe you want to speak up in a meeting, or you feel like dancing to music, or you want to tell someone you care about them. But instead of expressing it, you suppress it because it might be inappropriate or unprofessional. That suppression creates internal stress. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real threat and the threat of social disapproval, so it floods your body with stress hormones. Now you're in fight or flight mode, and your brain starts looking for quick energy sources and comfort foods. But here's the kicker. The foods you crave when you're stressed are the exact opposite of what your body actually needs. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nothing happens to anybody which he is not fitted by nature to bear." He understood that humans are designed to handle authentic emotions, authentic challenges, authentic experiences. We're not designed to handle constant performance and suppression. When you're living authentically, expressing your real thoughts, following your genuine interests, honoring your actual needs, something magical happens to your appetite. You stop craving sugar highs and dopamine dumps. You start wanting foods that actually nourish you. I'm not talking about forcing yourself to eat kale because it's healthy. I'm talking about authentic craving, when your body asks for what it actually needs, because you're finally listening to its signals, instead of drowning them out with stress and performance. Here's the American connection. We live in a culture of artificial everything, artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, artificial relationships. Hello, social media, artificial success metrics, artificial happiness. We're surrounded by fake, so we become fake, so we crave fake. But Marcus Aurelius, ruling the most powerful empire in history, chose simplicity, not because he couldn't afford luxury, but because authenticity gravitates toward what's real. Think about this. When was the last time you ate something and felt truly satisfied? Not stuffed, not guilty, but genuinely nourished. Probably when you were eating real food with real people in a moment when you weren't performing. The emperor wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." He understood that satisfaction comes from alignment, not accumulation. When you're aligned with who you really are, you don't need food to fill the void, distract you from pain, or reward you for getting through another day of being someone else. You eat because you're hungry. You stop because you're full. You choose foods that make you feel good because you're actually paying attention to how you feel. This is why diets don't work. Long term, they treat food as the problem when food is actually just the symptom. The real problem is the disconnection from your authentic self. You can't maintain healthy eating habits while living an unhealthy life. Marcus Aurelius figured out that self-respect and self-care are the same thing. When you respect yourself enough to live authentically, you naturally start caring for your body authentically. Stop trying to fix your diet while ignoring your life. Start living your truth, and watch your cravings transform automatically. Asterisk the soul's emergency brake, why chronic fatigue is actually a message. Asterisk Marcus Aurelius wrote something that will change how you see exhaustion forever. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But what if your soul is trying to dye itself a different color, and you keep painting over it? Here's the revolutionary idea that the Roman emperor understood. What if chronic fatigue isn't a malfunction? What if it's a message? Not you're broken, but you're off course. Not you need more energy, but you need more truth. Think about this. Your soul has been watching you perform, pretend, and people please your way through life. It's seen you say yes when you mean no, smile when you want to scream, and choose security over authenticity again and again. And finally, it does the only thing it can do. It pulls the emergency brake. Chronic fatigue is your soul's way of saying, I can't carry this mask anymore. Marcus Aurelius dealt with the weight of an empire, but he never wrote about chronic exhaustion the way we experience it today. You know why? Because he wasn't living someone else's life. Even under enormous pressure, he was still fundamentally himself. Here's what blew my mind when I really understood this. Have you ever noticed that you can work on something you love for hours and feel energized afterward, but 30 minutes of doing something that goes against your nature leaves you drained? The emperor wrote, in the morning when thou risest unwillingly, let this thought be present, I am rising to the work of a human being. Notice he didn't say the work of a good employee or the work of a successful person. He said the work of a human being. What's the work of a human being? To be human, to express what's real, to live with integrity, to honor what matters to you, to speak truth, to create meaning, to love authentically. But somewhere along the way, we replaced human being with human doing. We started measuring our worth by our productivity, our success by other people's approval, our value by how well we fit into systems that weren't designed for our souls, and our souls went on strike. Here's the American epidemic. We've turned life into a performance review. Every conversation becomes networking. Every hobby becomes a side hustle. Every moment of rest becomes self-care that we have to optimize. We've gamified existence until there's no space left for actual living. Marcus Aurelius understood that energy flows when purpose aligns with authenticity. He wasn't just going through the motions of being emperor. He was genuinely committed to the philosophical principles that guided his leadership. But what happens when your daily life has nothing to do with what actually matters to you? When your work conflicts with your values? When your relationships require you to be someone you're not? When your lifestyle demands you suppress your real needs? Your soul starts rationing energy. It says, if you're not going to use this life force for authentic living, then you don't get access to it. This is why people can sleep 10 hours and wake up exhausted, while others can get 6 hours and bounce out of bed. It's not about the quantity of rest, it's about whether your life is aligned with your truth. The Roman emperor wrote, waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one. But I would add, waste no more time arguing what your authentic life should look like. Live it. Here's what happens when you start listening to the message instead of fighting the fatigue. Your energy doesn't just return, it surges, because you're finally using your life force for its intended purpose, being yourself. I'm not talking about quitting your job and becoming a yoga instructor though. Maybe that's exactly what some people need. I'm talking about bringing more of who you really are into whatever you're already doing. Marcus Aurelius couldn't abandon his responsibilities as emperor, but he could approach those responsibilities from his authentic center. He could lead with his actual values instead of just maintaining power. He could make decisions based on wisdom instead of just keeping people happy. Your chronic fatigue isn't asking you to do less. It's asking you to be more real, more honest, more yourself. The message is simple. Stop living someone else's life and watch your energy return. Your soul has been waiting patiently for you to come home. It's time to answer the call. The authenticity, energy source, how to plug back into your life force. * Marcus Aurelius wrote the words that unlock everything. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. But what if your greatest enemy isn't external? What if it's the version of yourself you think you need to be to survive? Here's the final secret the Roman emperor discovered. Authenticity isn't just a lifestyle choice, it's a power source. When you live from who you truly are, you don't just feel better, you literally operate from a different energy system. It's like switching from a dying battery to plugging directly into the electrical grid. You're not running on reserves anymore, you're connected to an unlimited supply. Think about the last time you were completely yourself with someone. Maybe you were laughing until your stomach hurt, or having a conversation where you didn't edit a single thought. or doing something that made you lose track of time entirely? Did you feel drained afterward? Hell no. You felt alive. That's because authenticity generates energy while performance consumes it. Marcus Aurelius understood this principle on a cellular level. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not because the past and future don't matter, but because authentic power only exists in real time. You can't be genuinely yourself in the past, that's memory, or in the future, that's fantasy. You can only be real right now." And here's where it gets practical for Americans living. In 2025, we've been taught that success means becoming whoever the market demands, that happiness means getting everyone to like us, that security means never making waves. But Marcus Aurelius, who had actual security and actual power, chose truth over comfort every single day. Why? Because he discovered that living in is the most dangerous thing you can do to your life force. Here's your roadmap back to your energy source. First, stop apologizing for taking up space. Your thoughts matter. Your feelings are valid. Your needs are legitimate. Your desires aren't selfish, they're information. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Start thinking thoughts that honor who you actually are, not who you think you should be. Second, practice saying what you mean, not to be difficult, but to be honest. When someone asks how you are, and you're not fine, try saying, "I'm struggling today," instead of "I'm fine." Watch what happens to your energy when you stop using words to hide and start using them to reveal. Third, honor your authentic desires. If you want to create something, create it. If you need alone time, take it. If you feel like dancing, dance. If you want to say no, say no. Stop treating your genuine impulses like they're inconvenient interruptions to your real life. They are your real life. Fourth, integrate your shadow. Stop pretending you're only love and light. You're human, which means you contain multitudes. Your anger has wisdom. Your sadness has depth. Your selfishness has boundaries. Your weirdness has creativity. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about his frustrations, disappointments, and struggles. He didn't transcend his humanity, he integrated it. Finally, understand that this isn't about perfection. Authenticity isn't a destination, it's a practice. Some days, you'll nail it. Other days you'll catch yourself performing and gently quit. The goal isn't to never wear masks, it's to choose consciously when you put them on and take them off quickly. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while staying true to his philosophical principles. He faced plagues, wars, and betrayals without losing his center, not because he was superhuman, but because he understood that authenticity isn't a luxury, it's survival equipment. Here's what happens when you plug back into your authentic power source. Your sleep gets deeper because you're not using energy to maintain false personas. Your relationships get better because people are finally meeting the real you. Your work becomes more effective because you're operating from your natural strengths. Instead of forcing yourself into someone else's blueprint, your food cravings change because you're no longer eating to fill the void of self-abandonment. Your anxiety decreases because you're not constantly monitoring how well you're performing. Your energy doesn't just return, it multiplies. The Roman emperor's final wisdom, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. I'll add this, the energy of a lifetime is found in that same place. Stop performing your life, start living it. Your authentic self is waiting, and it's been saving up energy for your return. Welcome home.